Yeah.
Yeah.
I can get a name tag if you don't. I mean,
Hi, my name is Fred.
I don't mind. They call me John.
Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm going to just call on people. I know I asked all your names, I probably forgot, but we're going to get started. Who wants to go first? Debbie, then.
First of all, fascinating documentary, guys. Kudos to you, Steve. Great job.
Nicely done.
So I have to ask you, for the old Backstreet Boys fans and for the new, what is it about the Backstreet Boys in this documentary that is as relevant today as it would have been if you'd made it 20 years ago?
Well, the story wouldn't be there if we made it 20 years ago. I don't know if that really answers your question, but at the same time, you have to live and learn. You have to grow. You have to become, unfortunately, but fortunately, we've become from little boys to men now in the business world that we live in, with social media and everything has changed in the past 5, 6, 10 years. But again, we wouldn't be the people that we are today if it weren't for all of the crap and the great times and the emotion that you see, the roller coaster that we've been on for the past 20 years. And I don't think we would change any of it if you asked us. It's part of our history, it's part of our livelihoods, it's part of us as individuals and as groups, so hopefully it keeps getting better.
It's also a part of those fans' lives as well. We share that together, so I think that's what's relevant, is that we all share the common thing, and they're seeing their lives. They've seen our lives from the surface level in a lot of ways, on TV, music videos, whatever you want to call it. Now they get a chance to really see, behind the scenes and all those years, sort of packed into one film.
But it gives you actual story to tell. You're telling a 20-year career as opposed to some of these younger bands who are barely 20 themselves. So for a filmmaker, it was a bonanza. It was great,
Rama.
Yes. Happy.
Rama.
Yes. Thank you, Brian. Yeah. Happy belated birthday, Nick.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, my sisters and I are big fans of you guys growing up. Thank you for coming to my country, Indonesia, a few times, and we Indonesians. Oh, you guys, that's cool. We love you guys. Big fans. Now, 20 plus years now, going strong. So, you guys paved the way for the boy bands coming after you guys, but they come and go. They don't last as long as you guys did. So, my fun question is, what would be your advice to One Direction?
I would say stay in your own lane. I would say,
They don't need any advice.
yeah, no, they're obviously doing really quite well. They don't need the advice of their senior, but we are senior. No, I think just to really stay on your own path. I mean, we definitely treaded water as much as we possibly could. We definitely stuck true to ourselves. We stayed on our own path. We never swayed left or right. We never really went too far outside of our comfort zone because there was something that worked. There was a true Backstreet Boys sound musically, sonically that worked. If it wasn't this 5, it wouldn't work. We're friends. We're family. We've been through highs and lows together, and this whole journey, this whole film, is a real testament to our fans and to one another. So again, just any groups that come and go or are still here, just stay on your own path, get a good lawyer, and most importantly, have fun and make sure that it's all about the music first, and be really good to your fans. Stop and take pictures with your fans, even if you're not in a good mood that day. A little bit goes a long way.
I think, it's not advice. It's just, sort of more of a, warning in some ways. I like to say, make sure you guys stick together, because if you don't, then you don't get to experience what we are experiencing right now after 22 years, making a documentary, still here. If you don't stick together and be a team and play as a team, it'll all go away. You'll be sitting back wishing that you were in this position.
Dang, I should have gone somewhere.
Greg?
Nick, I'm just wondering, going back to your elementary school and watching all that footage, and you were also talking about growing up with your friends, and a lot of them were dead or jail or evicted. How much does it feel to you personally to know that you have these friends to guide you along the way? And you guys along the way as well.
It was this was a miracle that I found these guys in so many different ways. Because when I had gone back there with them, and it brought back to life all those memories and all the things that I had heard, and yeah, I don't know if I said it in the film or not, but if I didn't meet them, there's probably no doubt in my mind that I could have gone down that path, either been in jail, drug addict, or who knows, whatever. But in a lot of ways, music and these guys saved me. And it sounds cliche, and it's but it is what it is. It's true.
Courtney, I'm wondering for each of you, kind of playing off of Greg's question a little bit, what was the hardest part of the documentary to watch, or the hardest memory for you to have to revisit?
I think obviously the Lou stuff is still, to this day, a bit of a sensitive subject for some of us. Some of us have made our peace with it, others may not yet. You can always forgive, you just can't really forget. It's always going to be a part of us. We're very grateful and thankful for Lou. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Lou. And I think going back home and actually really digging up some of our old personalities, our old upbringing, and really seeing each other for who we are and why we tick the way that we tick is, how he's been saying in most interviews now. We all knew where each of us were born, but we never physically went and felt the emotion from each other. And that was kind of towards the end of actually making this documentary. Kevin had made the suggestion to go back home, and we went everywhere in 5 days. And there was a lot of emotion. It was very therapeutic. I think we learned a lot more about each other that we didn't know for the last 20 plus years. And I think it actually made us stronger and actually made us much more of a band.
So it was hard for me to live through during that 5-day period to experience and sort of live through these other guys' experiences in life and be explained it and told and learn it. To watch, I don't know if they can say the same thing, but seeing each one of them cry over a specific story or circumstance that had occurred in their lives, it affected me, and it really touched me in a lot of ways, and that's the whole empathetic sort of thing as well,
Okay. Ingrid.
Ingrid.
Hi.
Is there anything that you guys saw in the movie that you were kind of like, oh, I kind of wish that ended up on the cutting room floor? Anything that you're a little bit like, oh, I wish that was in the movie?
There's we wanted to be honest. We wanted to be uncensored. At the same time, when we're telling these stories, and there's a lot of things that didn't make the film, and that was a hard part. I think the first edit was over 3 hours long, and 20 plus years of stories to tell, and then 5 different versions of that story, and then weaving it all together without leaving out important moments or leaving. And so different moments are important to each one of us. So Stephen had quite a job to kind of get it all into a format that you could watch in one sitting and still make it compelling and interesting. I think there are parts, I think one of the issues that I was worried about is when I do the German translation of a certain phrase that I was taught by a girl I was dating at the time. The way I was raised in Kentucky, in the South, the way my parents raised me, I don't ever want to be vulgar. But we were telling stories that we were going through when we were young men coming up. So I think that was, you don't want to cross that line too much. So I don't know if I answered your question.
We fought for that line, and I think we.
I initially, when I saw it, I'm like, I don't want my son to see this.
I had a line too.
Was going to be actually we had our families. We had a couple of the screens, the different takes, attempts at the takes where we had a chance to watch it. And I had a couple of my family members watching, and one of my cousins saying, "Ah, the line about you saying you're at Lou's house and you saw your first porn." my daughter's 12 years old. I don't know if you should think about that. Is your mom gonna be cool with that? And I remember
My son
it was right around the same time Kevin. That was Kevin and I we were both dealing with this kind of thought of, okay, well, do we want to put it out there or not? But like I said, with the direction of directors and people around us, we felt like Kevin said, that we wanted to be honest and real. And these are things that we were going through growing up, right in front of in those early days, that it was real. And that's what we wanted our fans, if anything, to take away from this, that we're a bunch of normal guys. And porn's what we do on the weekend.
Steven and
I was just going to say, for me, and it's kind of adding on to your last question, was I was running from my voice issues, and I didn't want it to be known. I thought if I could handle it and swallow it and protect it, that we wouldn't have to talk about it. And when you're trying to make a record and you can't sing on a record, it sucks, because that's my job. And as everybody knows, I've had a little bit of weight on my shoulders over the past 22 years, like we all have done. But at the same time, it's like, I get kind of choked up talking about it, because Steven and I talked about it, Mia and I talked about it. They were like, this is an important part, and this is who you are, and this is what you're going through. If you talked to me 4 or 5 months ago, I wouldn't be able to talk, and it was kind of scary. I was thinking about hanging it up. Like, I put my 20-some years in, and thanks, guys. I'm going to take my break like Kevin did and come back. But it became a part. It became an important part, because again, I wanted to stifle it. I thought if I didn't tell anybody, nobody would ask, and then it just kind of came out. And I'm glad it did. I feel better about it. And again, I'm getting stronger each and every day. But not that it should have been on the cutting room floor, but it's very
Hard to watch.
It's very, very hard to watch.
How's your voice today?
It's okay. It's better today.
But I just want to add one more. I just want to add one more thing. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But when we were, this idea of the film started off as a making of. Let's film us with our phones, with our own handheld recorders, making this album, this 20th anniversary album, making this tour. Let's film this. And then when our management took us to Mia and Pulse Media out of the UK, and then we got Steven on board, and we all sat down, we're like, we don't want this to be a VH1 behind the music. We already did that. We don't want this to be a fluff promotional piece. We have a lot of stories to tell. We've lived an extraordinary life. The 5 of us have worked as a team and made our dreams come true. And we just trusted, and we're honest, and we let the cameras roll through the whole process, and we trusted in Steven and Mia, and that's what we had. So.
Jimmy, did you have a question?
When I saw this film, you guys, I can see you guys' bond is really strong, because I saw many boys band breakup and weird, something like that. So my question is, kind of like a following up the question as well. What kind of effect through this experience? What effect you guys grew, and what's your wife's react?
From the movie standpoint?
I mean, it's really funny. I talked to my wife this morning after we did the morning news, and she told me she was getting teary-eyed. I was like, we didn't really have that much of an emotional interview this morning, but she got all choked up, and I'm like, really? Why? And she's like, she's been around with me for the last 6 years almost, and she's become family, as all of our wives and each of us have become family. And she's like, I know you guys now. And to see the 5 of you, you're great men. You're honest men. You're very loyal men. You treat your families great. You treat your fans great. And to see what you've gone through and that you've persevered is very emotional. And you could have very easily thrown in the towel, and you didn't. And I'm looking forward to when my little girl is old enough to understand what's going on and watch the movie, be like, if you really want to see what Daddy went through, pop in the DVD or Blu-ray, wherever it's going to be, and show her Daddy's life. And
She'll just watch it on some goggles.
probably some virtual 3D
Daddy, it comes right here.
but I mean, you know, again, it's been a great experience to reminisce, to go back into time, kind of dig into that vault, and kind of rekindle that flame again, and to get excited again, and be more passionate and more goal-oriented now, and to know that we have 20 more years in us easily. You know, as long as we're having fun, the music's there, and the fans want us to be around. You know, we're gonna do this as long as we can, with the support of great wives and families and friends. We got a great support group, and amongst us 5, we've been here for each other through hell and back. So,
I was just gonna
reactions? Yeah.
I was just gonna add on, like the in the beginning when we started this, it's all about working together and being that team. And then with success comes money, comes stuff, comes things, and that, in a nutshell, like we work really hard together, but at the same time, there was also an inner developing as a person, as an individual. Because when you're a group, you kind of become everything that everybody else is around you. And so that was, I think, a kind of a turning point in our career was to kind of focus on each other as individuals for a moment, which kind of sometimes pushes you apart. But then at the end of the day, you realize that it's all about that team, because there is money and wives and kids and cars and houses and things and stuff that can take you away from what's really important. And that is, at the end of the day, it comes down to us 5. And I think that's one key that we've always had. It doesn't matter, you know, problems or issues or wives or kids. It's always been about us.
I was gonna say, if you get a chance to see the documentary, and I just asked this the other day. They asked me, they said, "So is all your wives in the movie? Or is your families?" And actually, the movie doesn't have a lot of our outside personal lives. It wasn't on purpose. It just naturally, I think we had so much just to tell, just to 5 of us, that it would have been probably hard. It would have been like the part 2 series.
That's the sequel.
You know, but I think we all used our families as soundboards. You know, giving the cuts to my brothers and sisters, and I remember my wife, to me, was a very key person in my opinions on what the way I kind of viewed it, because my wife, besides working with us at one point, she also started, she used to be in the film industry. She worked for Jerry Weintraub as a producer. So I would go a lot of times to her as a soundboard to say, what do you think of this take? And there was a lot of times where she was very brutal and honest with me and says, this movie sucks right now. And it was at the very beginning. That was like, thanks, man. And I'm like, great, I'm glad you weren't in the movie. But there was definitely times, you know, where, you know, we went through, like I said, what, 3 or 4, 5 different takes before it finally came to where it is right now. And a lot of that was a lot of all of our inputs together, just going over the different scenes. And I think where it is now from where it started, we came so far. And I think now we have a great job that they did, because I know that it's hard to get that much information in an hour and 45 minutes wherever we are at. And
that's what we have extra bits for.
Yeah, which will be seen tonight.
Hi. Going back to the hometown visits, there's moments in, you know, when you're watching it where you can see that you guys are visibly moved by what you're learning about each other, and they've known each other for 22 years. So, what was like the most moving moment or the most surprising thing that you learned about each other?
Obviously for me, I really thoroughly enjoyed hearing everyone's stories. You know, we had already met Brian's chorus teacher years and years ago, but to see kind of having that full circle, and kind of, for me, how the film starts and how the film ends, I think is a really great just circle of just our entire life, and just kind of starting in this beautiful forest. It's freezing out, you know, the 5 of us just kind of hiking, my slow ass dragging behind, and then we end, you know, and then we end at like the top of this beautiful mountain, knowing that, you know, with each of us helping each other climb these rocks, we got to the top. And to me, that's just a really powerful metaphor. It really is.
It's so simple in a way, but even shooting it, I could feel like, I was like, this is the end of the movie.
Yeah.
This is the, I mean, it was the last hometown trip we shot. Like in Kentucky. It was beautiful. And the light, we were losing the light, and Kevin's like, I'm getting them to that hill. We're doing it. And man, they managed to get up there. And it's just with our cameras, pushing everyone behind it. And yeah, did you feel something special about that moment? You know, glad we hung on to it.
Things that pop out to me is the rabbit story about Howie. I loved, him talking about his dad. I've kind of gone through that with my cousin Kevin because he lost his dad, and that's a very emotional part of the film as well. Just the things that jump out that I really, really remember. The relationships that AJ had with his teachers at school, because he didn't have a dad growing up, and he was kind of surrounded by a bunch of these lovely ladies that nurtured him, cared for him, and saw the best in him. Nick, playing outside. That's what me and Kevin did as kids. You can play outside across the street and to see the house where his family grew up and where he grew up, and talking about his parents, in and out all the time, and people moving in and out. It's an emotional roller coaster, but it also kind of paints us as black and white, as normal human beings, even though we're quote unquote pop stars or whatever you want to call us. So we have those special moments that kind of make us who we are.
Melissa.
Going back to what Howie was saying about the cuts, I'm just curious what your experience was with the editing process, because you were involved, and that's not very common for the subject to be involved in.
It was definitely challenging because you have 5 different opinions and a director. So now you have 6 different opinions.
And wives.
And wives and families. And, it's almost like making an album. Some of us are different. Like for me, I love to play all of our demos for my wife and for my friends. And some of the guys want to keep everything tightly wound until the record's done. So it's a good thing and a bad thing, I think, to show all these different edits and these different versions to friends and family and get so many more opinions. It can sometimes get a little cloudy. But at the end of the day, it really did boil down to the 6 of us, Mia, and just really, trying to make the best version of our story in such a condensed amount of time. And I think it turned out better than we could have ever dreamed.
I actually stopped watching all the edits and stuff. There was a million emails and change that go through this, and it can get kind of tedious and monotonous after a while. And so you kind of just gotta, for me, I put it all out there and everything, and then I personally just wanted to let the director, and our production team just really handle it and really put together the story that they felt. I mean, it's not like we made up stuff. I mean, it was what it was. It was our life. They knew the storyline, and they just kind of had to paint the picture. So for me, it was in the beginning that I was, watched the first couple edits, but then after that, I just kind of wanted to be surprised. So tonight's going to be the first time that I've seen it in, I don't know, 8 months, 9 months.
We had 2 really, really strong editors also who were crucial in the process. But making a film like this, we wanted it to be true to who they were. So, and you do want to include the artist a lot, because sometimes, you want to figure out where they want to take the story. So I always like to make things as collaborative as possible. It's not like a buck stops with me kind of thing. I mean, we really took on as much as we could. This is a process. We had a lot of great people in the middle of it, but it was great to hear from them and help them, shape this thing that we are going to see tonight. So
my brother texted me last week because he got the link to the film and he watched it. And he texted me, he's like, man, of course it was edited for the dramatic effect. And I texted him back, I was like, not really. He's like, and he's like, what do you mean? And I said, well, really, the things that you see in the film is truly and honestly what happened. When there's arguments in the boardroom and cussing and going at each other, that happens. We're not afraid to say it. And the pop stars, when we started, it was like, oh, we don't have girlfriends, and that's not the life that we live now. So I think with the editing process, there was no jockeying around. It formed itself with obviously a great team behind Pulse and Stephen, but at at the same time, like just Nick said, it is what it is, and there it is. So,
I think the overall goal was to, if you've never ever heard of the Backstreet Boys and you watch this film, would it be interesting to you? Would it be compelling to you? Or would you get up and walk out after 5 minutes? You know, we understand that we have a group of amazing fans all over the world that keep track of us and follow us, and they're hardcore, and they've been with us from day one. And then there's a group of fans that are kind of a little more passive, that they'll check in on us every few years or whatever, come out and see this last tour we did. And then there's some fans that have moved on and completely, moved on and forgotten about us or whatever. But then there are people that never were fans. So we wanted it to just stand on its own. And I think the hardest part, again, was just there was so much material and so much to tell. The most difficult part was getting it all down so you could watch it in one sitting and understand everything. So
I won't be elaborating on that. I do want to say I feel is in some ways, I mean, we made this film for ourselves, but this also is a way for us to reconnect with those fans that might have moved on, or people who are the passive ones, to reconnect with them. Because we believe our music, we love our music, we believe in our music, we feel it's good music, and we're great performers, we feel. And, life just takes its course, and, things happen, and, we talk about it all the time. We'll drive through, we'll go through a drive-through at, like, In and Out, and someone will be in the drive-through window and be like, hey, aren't you, yeah, no, not Justin. Or you like her, right? Oh, Backstreet Boys. What are you guys doing? And then we'll sit there and go, and that's the story we hear time and time again. And, the film world it's a big outlet. I mean, let's be honest. It's a way to really kind of connect with people again. So that's one good thing that can come from it.
Or they say, are you still making music? You're like,
exactly.
You live under a rock.
What's your name again? Lindsay. This is pressure's on. This is the last question.
Hey,
Better be a good one.
No pressure.
Okay, so I love the movie. I watched it last night. It was absolutely amazing. Your ballet skills were.
Thank you.
He's still
classically
like
trained.
this.
Classically trained. Thank you.
So my
That's
question,
not a good question.
my question was, how was it like recording and writing music in London with having Kevin back in the group, and then also with how he wanted to sing more as lead, just the whole like him.
Well, he put a gun to our head. And told us,
While watching porn.
Yeah. While watching that got real weird. It just went there. No, you know what, guys? It was the perfect way for us to kind of reconnect, rebond. Kevin had just come back. We had talked about, Nick had made the suggestion of going somewhere outside of our element, where there's no distractions, no wives, no kids, no nothing. And just us five, all the real world, living in a house together, making breakfast with each other, and, staying up late talking about music vibes and whatnot, and just really reconnect. And it's now kind of, spurred this new mantra, hopefully, for us making the next record. We've already talked about a different destination, possibly, if it's hopefully not LA, but if it is, it's not a bad thing, because most of us live here. But just to be able to have that time. We were there for almost 3 weeks, and it was probably the best part of this entire process. It was really just being us five, goofing off, having fun. Granted there was cameras filming, but we kind of blocked that out and we were just being boys again.
We had a chance to, like I said, this was the first time Kevin was back in the studio with us for almost 7 years.
Yeah.
So I think this trip was very crucial in just reconnecting all of us. I think that we went out there. We pushed the envelope. Last time we had done something like this was we went to the Bahamas during the Black and Blue making of that record. And we weren't anywhere in the same mind space we were right now. I think this process with making this record here, and referring back to what you were saying in regards to me, even my personal take on or input in the movie, where I talked about where I had feelings over the years of when the group first started, when I was a little bit more in the forefront, to where also we started with the label, record label, Jive Records took us on, and the sound I was able to bring to the group was not exactly the mass market sound we were going in. So I had to take a little bit more of a step back, and my own struggles in my own head of trying to accept my position within the group, because we all came from solo backgrounds initially, and to a point where in our career we got to a point where finally our fans, they have known, you know, the sound of the Backstreet Boys, and I think that was the best thing. That probably was the decision at that time to make it that route, because who knows if we would have been here right now if it may have been different voices on it. But we got to a point where eventually in our career that our fans are wanting to hear us all individually. I was constantly dealing with myself, going, fans were thinking I just didn't want to sing, when it was totally the opposite. I wasn't given the chance to. And so it got to a point where we started talking as a group in our career after 5 records laid deep into it. We said, now let's make music that we want to make the music, how we want to present ourselves to the fans. It wasn't so much about the label, and actually this last record that we made here, we were departed on our own label. So we definitely had more of the control and being in the driver's seat to, you know, make a record that we feel, first of all, very proud of, and something that we just want to, you know, put out there to our fans. I think our fans now know that we're very comfortable in our skin. We don't need it to be directed so much for us. So it was definitely a bonding experience as well by doing that.
It was great to have Kevin back. Honestly, for 7 years. I mean, I'm proud of what we had done with the 4 of us. You know, we went out there and did 2 albums and went on the New Kids tour, and we really had to kind of hold sort of the legacy together and sort of the Backstreet Boy name, just keep it going, you know. But it always felt incomplete, you know. That was a song. Yeah, and it really did. And so when he came back and we were finally in the studio together, it just felt like we were home again. And it felt like we were the team. And I knew people out there felt that way as well. I knew there was fans out there that did feel that it was incomplete. So it was great.
Where's the tall dark
Is there anything you guys want to add? We gotta
wrap it up.
So we gotta wrap it up.
Thank you guys for coming. Hopefully,
Right.
all you guys saw the film.
Thanks for your interest.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay.